Hello, I'm still not Corey, and I'm also still not a conservative, which means during a pandemic, I don't throw a party and then lie about it and try to make out that it was a work event. So if you're American or otherwise don't know what's going on in British politics right now, our government decided to throw a party. The members, the people that run the government threw a party during the pandemic. Multiple parties even, and now people know about it, and oh boy are we angry. So I saw a video of Jacob Rees-Mogg on Twitter and I thought, you know what, I won't watch all of this now, I'll save it, I'll watch it on a video, I'll react to it, turn it into content. Further background, by the way, Jacob Rees-Mogg, a Tory, member of the Conservative Party in the UK, and also all-round bad bloke. Not very nice guy, very, very rich, very, very posh, and very, very insufferable. But before we fully begin the video, please leave a like and also subscribe to the channel. It really helps a lot. And also, let me know in the comments, do you like parties? Is that something you enjoy? Also, go ahead and check out my merch. I've got Stupid Baby t-shirts and a few Subtle Pride unicorn beanies left. Like, there are not many. Under 20. Maybe less than 15. I think just a little bit more than 10. You should definitely get one because I'm pretty sure once these are gone, they're gone. So go ahead and check out the merch at normalcitizen.store. I think that is all. Now let's start the video.
Prime Minister came here yesterday and apologised. He said that with hindsight, it was not what should have happened or what he would have wanted to happen. It is being investigated by Sue Gray, a civil...
For context, bear in mind, this party happened in Boris's garden, in the garden of number 10 Downing Street. I think there were other parties as well, but there are pictures of this one. So like, how can you say you wouldn't have wanted to happen if it was in your garden? You're only sorry because you got caught. This is so frustrating. The people that run our government right now are the kinds of people that think the rules don't apply to them. And of course that makes sense when you funnel people from the richest schools that only have the most privileged people going to them, and then bloody just let them run the country. Because wealthy people think the rules don't apply to them because generally they don't apply to them in the same way that they apply to other people. And having those people making the rules does not make any sense.
Servant of the highest integrity and of the greatest reputation. But I think everybody understands, on all sides of the House, that people were obeying the rules, and that these rules were very hard for people to obey.
That is a terrible thing to say, because pretty objectively it seems that the cabinet were not following the rules. Or at the very least, they were bending the rules so greatly that they may as well have broken them. You can't call everything a work event just because you... Like, I work from home, for example. Let's say I'm working from home and there are a few other people that I work with. You know, let's say the podcast. There's Sci Guys, right? That's a job for me. Let's say during the pandemic, during lockdown, I was to invite a number of people to be a guest on the show in one episode. Let's say, like, you know, 5 people to be a guest on the show in one episode. Now, they would have to come to my house to record the podcast, of course, right? So they would come to my house, record the podcast as guests, and bear in mind, this is work, so it's okay, it's a work event. And then we had a few drinks afterwards in the garden, you know. But it's a work event still, because they were here for work. We were just having some drinks in the garden afterwards. I would get in trouble for doing that. Why do the Tories get away with it? Honestly, I don't care if it's technically okay. You know that it isn't really safe. If you're giving out the messaging that people should follow these, as Jacob Rees-Mogg puts it, very difficult to follow rules, if you're putting out that people should follow those rules, then you should try to follow them as closely as possible yourself. Not try and get away with whatever you can. Because, like, if you set that example for people, if everyone was trying to get away with it as much as they could, then, like, we wouldn't really be having a lockdown, would we? If everybody acted like the cabinet did, we would not be having an actual goddamn lockdown. It is unbelievable that these people think that they are above the law. And again, with Mogg saying that it was really difficult to follow the rules, from the past 2 years, what we have seen, it really seems as though the cabinet, a lot of the Tories, weren't necessarily following the rules. They're deciding the guidelines, they're deciding the rules, and also deciding that they're going to build in loopholes for themselves. Or at the very least, they're going to exploit as many loopholes as they can. I'm gonna be honest, I don't necessarily trust a government, I don't necessarily trust a cabinet that makes loopholes for themselves. Or seeks loopholes in guidelines that are put in place for public safety. Like, people are dying and not being able to see their families as they die. And these guys are getting pissed in a garden. Unbelievable. The sheer contempt and just, honestly, lack of care that Tories seem to have for human life is unbelievable.
I received a message last night from a friend of mine who was unable to go to the funeral of his 2-year-old granddaughter. Now, one cannot hear these stories without grieving for people who suffered. And this was decisions that were taken at the beginning of the pandemic that affected people up and down the country, and they were very hard.
You know, when Tories bring up these stories, these very, very sad stories of people not being able to attend funerals or not being with loved ones as they died, or, you know, missing massive events in their lives, like, I just think, like, this is not helping your case, man. If Downing Street are having parties, why are you bringing this up? These are two different worlds. There are people that cannot attend funerals or weddings or any event whatsoever. People putting their lives on hold for like 2 years. And the people that run the country are above that. They get to run things as normal. They just need to be sneaky about it. I really wish that we had a competent government, or a government that, you know, didn't do this kind of shady this shady, selfish, like, just awful stuff. And to be fair, if they were more competent, maybe they would have gotten away with it. But if they were a little bit more competent than that, they probably wouldn't have done it in the first place. So, silver linings, I guess.
And we must consider, as this goes to an inquiry, and we look into what happened with COVID, whether all those regulations were proportionate, or whether it was too hard on people, whether it was...
This is what bothers me, right? Saying, oh, are these measures proportionate? Is it too hard on people? Almost alluding to mental health there, right? Nobody cares about mental health. The mental health services in this country are not great. They're better than a lot of other places, sure. Like, we have basically free healthcare. Free at the point of service, right? Free at the point of use. Still, it is very difficult to get mental health care. So, people bringing up the fact that, oh, it's difficult, it's making people depressed. You don't care about this at all. I know you don't. I know you don't actually care about people's mental health. I know that you bring out these statistics of increased suicide rates because you don't like lockdowns. Because if you actually cared about mental health services and, like, people being mentally ill or people getting depressed, then you would do things, like, outside of the goddamn pandemic. What are you doing beyond stopping lockdown, right? Because is the normal level of depression in society, is that a good baseline for you? Do you think that is fine? Is that okay? Because that's what it seems like, right? If you're saying, oh, let's just remove lockdowns, boom, we still have a lot of mental health issues as a populace. They're just at that normal baseline that you find absolutely acceptable. You're not going to try and decrease it any further. You're not going to say, okay, now that lockdowns are over, why don't we look at why people are depressed? Why don't we look at funding mental health services better? You're not going to say that. I promise you that most of the people saying, we need to think of people's mental health in terms of these lockdowns, none of them are going to give a shit about it once COVID is over. I swear to God, not a single one of those people is actually going to care about the mentally ill the minute that lockdowns are completely out of the picture. Honestly, as soon as all restrictions are gone, boom, back to never thinking about it again. Back to, you know, making fun of people that are mentally ill. Back to, like, honestly treating people who have clear symptoms of depression and anxiety like a plague. Honestly, it bothers me the way that people will just, like, use mental health or co-opt it when it is useful to them and completely disregard it at all other points. It is just extremely frustrating as someone who has been diagnosed with depression to have people say, we need to not have lockdowns because people will be depressed. What? Where was this energy before? Like, you don't care about depression. You don't. You just care about not being in a lockdown. Because I promise you, people dying from COVID is gonna make people depressed as well. Christ, people in this country can be so short-sighted, it frustrates me. And also, when it comes to the proportionate comment, we can look at the data now. In fact, the data at the time was showing that lockdowns were quite effective at stopping the spread of the virus, right? Like, that's why we did lockdowns, and they worked quite well. Unfortunately, we decided to encourage people to go out and hang out during the summer before the second wave, which only made the second wave that much worse. The lockdowns, I don't think, were draconic or overzealous measures. I think they were quite balanced, to be honest. If anything, I think the way that it was dealt with outside of those lockdowns was maybe a little bit too lax. Like, the British government seems to be fairly focused on bringing back the economy rather than protecting its goddamn citizens. That's the situation as I see it, at least. So having someone stand up in Parliament and say, we need to check to make sure that these measures weren't too harsh. I don't think they were. I think they were proportionate. And I'm pretty sure that's what the data was saying at the time. I don't know what further data you're going to be able to gather, looking back, because realistically, when it comes to proportionate, surely it's case numbers and hospitalizations, and those went down with lockdowns. Lockdowns were proportionate. They were useful, and honestly, they were a good thing. Hell to go through, yes, but they were a good thing.
Whether it was too hard on people, because I think as we hear of these stories, we inevitably grieve for those who suffered, those who could not visit people that they loved, their family, and could not attend funerals.
So again, this seems like virtue signaling, I guess. Like, it's just empty, because if you care about grieving and people's mental health being affected by these restrictions, then maybe the goal should not be to be in opposition of the restrictions, but instead in support of better funding for mental health services during and after the pandemic, because that'll help. You can do both things. You can do both, right? You can both help people's mental health and also protect their physical health. You don't need to completely jeopardize people's physical health for their mental health. It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. And again, I know I've said it already, but the way that these people are bringing up these stories to tug at the heartstrings when they were having parties is honestly disgusting.
But I think the key is that this is being looked into, that Sue Gray will report, and that the Prime Minister has made his apology clear.
I don't think that the apology was all that great. Like, I watched the PMQs and he said, I've apologised for this, but also was only saying, I'm not going to take any of these criticisms, I'll wait till the report is out. Let's just wait until the report is out. Like, the guy is standing there knowing that parties were had under his watch. He has let other people in his cabinet go down to save him, and he doesn't care. All he cares about is continuing to be Prime Minister. I don't need an apology for someone breaking the rules so egregiously during a pandemic. I need that person to not continue to be the goddamn Prime Minister because I can't bloody trust him. If this was something that he genuinely felt was wrong, maybe he would have brought it up himself without it having to be leaked to the public, without people finding out about it first. The apology is very hollow to me because he's only sorry that he got caught. It doesn't seem that he cares about, what he actually did. I genuinely think if there was another lockdown, he would do the same again, but just be sneakier about it this time, right? Like, you cannot trust someone that does this kind of thing, especially not in a position of power, especially not in the highest position of power in the UK. It is utterly disgusting what they did, and the fact that it is not, met with almost immediate, resignation is believable. Really, the goal of this man to think that he can continue to be Prime Minister? Disgusting. Resign, dude. Just leave. I honestly think that people that really want to be Prime Minister, that really want to be in that position, I don't know if they're the best people to be in that position, because instead of actually doing what is best for the country, it seems people do what is best to keep themselves in that position of power. There is no conclusion to this other than Tories bad, I guess. Boris bad. That is it. That's all I can say. Jesus. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and a comment, and also subscribe. That would mean a lot to me. You would make my heart grow 3 sizes, like the Grinch. I guess this is one take. I don't know why I said that. Anyway, you can also join my Patreon. It's down there. You see my patrons. They're all lovely. They're helping support me, helping make these videos, which is very nice. Or you can give a one-off payment on PayPal at paypal.me/notcorry. You can do that if you would like. It would be appreciated also. I'll put your name in a video too if you do it, I guess. Go ahead. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for watching this. I think that's all from me. Dearie me. Goodbye.